So the Championship is well and truly back, ladies and gentlemen, and today we have the return of the Championship Roundup. So in today's video, guys, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going over each game which took place in the Championship over the weekend, having a bit of a discussion about it. But what I'm of course interested to know is, what did you guys make of the opening weekend of this Championship season? Let me know down below, because in today's video, guys, we have a lot of talking points to go ahead and discuss. Also, let me know down below, what do you think was the goal of the weekend, and what do you think was the result of the weekend? I'll leave a couple of polls for you guys to vote on for this video, but I'm very interested in what you guys have to say about this one. Before we get into talking about any of the matches, guys, I will include your guys' comments on screen now, so if any of you guys did successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, then I will include your comment on screen. Now, apologies if you did get one correct and your comment wasn't included. On the score predictions video, we got hundreds of comments, so I literally just couldn't include them all as there were too many of them. But the way I did it is, the sooner you comment, really, the better chance you have of being featured in the video. I think that's the fairest way to do it, really. As for myself this weekend, I managed to get one of my score predictions correct this weekend, as did FIFA 18. We both went ahead and predicted the Preston against QPR game as a 1-0 home victory. And of course, we've got a game going on tonight in the Championship as well, Hull going up against Aston Villa, and we've also got two games going on Tuesday night as well. So at the end of the video, we're going to be going ahead and predicting what we think will happen in those games as well. So let me know down below what you think will happen in those as well. But apart from that, guys, let's go ahead and hop into talking about some of these games. So we'll start it out by talking about the Friday night game between Reading and Derby County, where thanks to a last-minute Tom Lawrence winner, Derby managed to walk away with a 2-1 away victory. And overall, I thought that he was quite harsh on Reading, really. Talking about the first half, Derby County really weren't at the races. Their midfield three just seemed to be a bit all over the place, really. Mason Mount, Bryson and Joe Ledley in the Derby County midfield, and they just couldn't really seem to click together in that first 45 minutes. Reading, I thought, were excellent. David Myler, I think, looked to be a very good addition for them. He was breaking up play fantastically for them, and going forward, Reading were looking a real threat as well. Aluko was looking good on the wing, and Mo Barrow especially. Bud Vartan had a fantastic chance to take the lead for Reading in the first half, but they couldn't capitalise on it. Going into the second half, though, Reading did get their goal. It was a nice ball in from Barrow, where Bud Vartan managed to head Reading 1-0 in front. It was a deserved lead as well. They were the better team up until that point, and then only 8 minutes later, Mason Mount got Derby back into the game after Manone had a bit of a howler, really, letting that one into the back of the net. And after that, it looked like the game was heading towards a 1-1 draw. That probably would have been the fair result, until the 94th minute, where Tom Lawrence popped up with a fantastic looping header. It was a brilliant ball that came into the box, and the amount of power he was able to generate on that header, sort of going backwards and then flicking it up, was absolutely terrific. He's not normally the sort of player you'd associate with scoring that type of goal, but overall, a point would have probably been the fair result. But fair play to Derby for going ahead and grabbing the late winner. One thing that you would say about Derby is, even when you're not playing the best, to be going ahead and picking up 3 points is a positive sign for them. But Reading, even though they did lose the game, I think a lot of positives could be taken from it. We've seen their football evolve from last season, where it was just bland possession-based football for the sake of it, really. This time they were pressing high up the pitch. If they were just a little bit more clinical, they could have probably gone on to get the 3 points themselves. And into the Saturday kickoffs, we saw Birmingham go up against Norwich, and this one finished as a 2-2 draw. Quite a lively affair at St Andrews. Both goalkeepers were kept fairly busy in the first half. Birmingham certainly looked to up the tempo going into the second half, and it was a nice strike from Magoma to go ahead and give the lead after a follow-up effort from a set piece. After that, Jordan Rhodes had a fantastic chance to go ahead and level for Norwich. I'm still not sure how he didn't manage to score it. It was a header inside the 6-yard box, but somehow Truman managed to go ahead and make it look like a pretty comfortable save for him. After that, though, Norwich went ahead and got back into the game. A fantastic goal from Arnel Hernandez. Some brilliant footwork to go ahead and drift into the box, and he fired it low with his left foot past Truman into the bottom corner. He looks to be a really good player for Norwich this season, and perhaps could be a replacement for James Maddison. Then in the 89th minute, Birmingham retook the lead after a ball had gone over the top, which had deceived the Norwich back line. They were looking like they were going to cruise on to get all 3 points, and then in the 94th minute, Hernandez once again popped up for Norwich City to go ahead and make it 2-2 with a very nice finish from him. It was quite a nice passing move, actually, which led to that goal from Norwich. It certainly wasn't a flawless performance from either of these two sides, but encouraging to say the least. Next game then saw Brentford go up against Rotherham and absolutely smash them 5-1, as Brentford really went ahead and sent out a statement to the Championship. In this one, I thought Brentford were looking fantastic going forward. Their one-touch play and their movement inside the box was absolutely irresistible to watch in this one, and Rotherham just couldn't really deal with them. It only took them 4 minutes to go ahead and take the lead after Neil Maupay managed to follow in from a rebound, and after that, the wheels just kept rolling for Brentford. In fairness, Rotherham did have a pretty good chance to go ahead and level from Joe Newell, but but Daniel Bentley went ahead and made a good save in the Brentford goal. Defensively, I do think that Rotherham have a couple of areas to go ahead and address, really. You know, looking at the Sergi Canos goal as a main example of that, the ball coming from a set piece, coming from a corner, and then Sergi Canos having an acre of space inside the box to go ahead and fire into the back of the net. And in the second half, Brentford just continued to run away with the game, really. The best finish probably coming from Ollie Watkins soon into the second half, a couple of step overs, and then he absolutely launched it into the top corner. But this really went ahead and sent out a statement from Brentford. Rotherham's confidence probably won't be great after this, but Brentford look fantastic going forward. Our next game then saw Bristol City and Nottingham Forest go ahead and draw 1 apiece with each other in what was probably a game of two halves, really. Bristol City went ahead and took the lead fairly early on thanks to a Weimann header after just 5 minutes into the first half. After that, Bristol City went ahead and carried on pushing for a second goal. Forest in the first half weren't really brilliant. I think that in the second half, you know, they went to rectify that, but in the first half, really they were just reduced to long-range efforts that weren't really going anywhere. Their passing football wasn't really coming off for them, and Bristol City definitely had the better of that half. Into the second half, though, Ita Karanka obviously changed a couple of things, and they went ahead and equalised fairly soon on into that half after a nice header from Daryl Murphy. They could have gone on to get the winner. Both keepers had to be kept fairly busy into the second half, both producing pretty big saves for their clubs, but in the end it did finish level. So I feel like we didn't see the best of either of these two sides so far in this game, and I'm excited to see what Forest can do on Tuesday against West Brom. Then we saw Ipswich go up against Blackburn, this one finishing as a 2-2 draw. This one was a really topsy-turvy game. It was Ipswich who went ahead and took the lead after a fantastic ball in from Freddie Sears was met by Edwards on his debut, and he managed to put Ipswich 1-0 in front, and then it only took Blackburn like 20 minutes to go ahead and flip this game around and go 2-1 in front. Danny Graham managed to get the first goal for them after I thought Bilkowski could have probably done better for that first goal that Blackburn scored. They seemed to parry out into the 6-yard box where Danny Graham was waiting, and then some nice build-up play down the left-hand side for Blackburn. Managed to see Bradley that go ahead and make it 2-1 and for them to go in front at half-time. In the second half, Blackburn had a fantastic chance to go ahead and make it 3-1. It was Casey Palmer who the chance fell to, but Bilkowski stood up with a big save to go ahead and rectify for the first goal where he was a little bit weak. Then Ipswich went ahead and managed to make it 2-2. It was Edwards once again involved. I think he got the assist for this one, and the actual goal itself looked to be a cross but ended up going in the back of the net anyway. But one thing I must say about Ipswich Town, Edwards looked absolutely fantastic for them, obviously getting the goal and the assist, but his awareness on the ball and ability to go past a person looked fantastic. So I'm interested to see what he can do over the course of this season. And obviously what was interesting about Ipswich was they were without Martin Waghorn for this game, and despite that, going forward, they actually looked pretty good. Our next game then somehow saw Middlesbrough go ahead and salvage a 2-2 draw against Millwall away. I'm still not sure how they managed to come out of this one with a point, really, because this game was dominated by Millwall. They went ahead and took the lead after just 12 minutes, then they doubled the lead in the first half after a really sloppy mistake from Aidan Flint, trying to head the ball back to the goalkeeper, and then Lee Gregory managed to latch onto it, go around Randolph, and then make it 2-0 to Millwall. In the first half, Millwall very comfortable. Boro weren't really posing any threat at all, really. They were happy to sit back and didn't have anything going forward. Of course, they were without Adama Traore for this game. In the second half, the same things were continuing, really. Millwall probably unlucky not to get a third or even a fourth goal in this game, and Middlesbrough were just looking really far off the pace until the 87th minute where they pulled the goal back. It was quite sloppy defending from Millwall, as in the build-up to that goal they had a couple of opportunities to go ahead and clear their lines, but even when that goal went in, it was still looking like Millwall were going to go ahead and cruise to the victory. And then in the 97th minute, resulting from a long throw-in, George Friend managed to go ahead and level things up for Middlesbrough. One thing that you had to say about this game is Middlesbrough got heavily let off the hook in this one. Millwall, I thought, got quite unlucky. The only criticism you could probably throw at them is in the last 10 or so minutes, they were looking like they were dropping deeper and deeper and deeper. So maybe that's something to look into, but Middlesbrough, somehow they got a 2-2 draw from this one. I'm not sure how, because they weren't great. We then saw my team, Preston, then go ahead and claim a 1-0 home victory over QPR. Preston, for this one, dominated the ball for a lot of it, although we didn't really create too many clear-cut chances, which is probably my only disappointment from this game. In the first half, we were reduced to long-range efforts, really, from players like Barkhuizen and Callum Robinson, and although we had a lot of the ball, we weren't really crafting as much as I would have liked to. QPR's best chance in the first half probably came through Matt Smith, who just had a header go wide after a set piece. Going into the second half, though, Preston managed to go ahead and break the deadlock on 50 minutes after Alan Brown's looping header from a Josh Harrop free kick, and Alan Brown once again popping up with big goals. I fancy him to have another very good season for us, and it was nice to see Josh Harrop in the team today as well. Of course, him getting the assist in the end. Talking about QPR though, they weren't really causing much of a threat going forward at all really. Although they did have one terrific chance to go ahead and level it up. I think it was Silla with the chance in the end, but Declan Rudd produced an unbelievable reflex save to go ahead and tip it over the crossbar. I think that came from a corner as well. The thing I'd talk about with QPR is from open play, they didn't look very threatening at all. They sat quite deep and made themselves hard to break down, but going forward from open play, they weren't really offering anything. You know, I wasn't really concerned about conceding to them. Matt Smith looked incredibly isolated for them. I think when you have a player like Matt Smith in the side who's 6'6", a target man, you need to get players running off him. He was far too isolated in this game and so didn't really cause much of a threat. We then saw Bolton Wanderers go ahead and claim a 2-1 away victory at West Brom, and what a fantastic result it is for them. Before we talk about the game, can we just talk about the fact that West Brom have a boiler as a mascot? A boiler. Talking about the game though, I thought that Bolton were absolutely fantastic. They managed to go ahead and take the lead in the first half. Some fantastic work from Amiobi down the right wing to go ahead and beat his man. He got the ball into McGuinness and he managed to slot home to make it 1-0 to Bolton. After that, West Brom looked to recover. They got a goal back just before half-time. A fantastic one from Harvey Barnes, cutting inside from the left-hand side, and a looping, curling shot into the top corner. Managed to go ahead and make it 1-1. In the second half, you could see that West Brom were trying to push for a winner in this one. It just wasn't going to happen for them. Going forward, they were looking a little bit blunt. I'm not going to lie about that. In and around the box, they weren't looking as sharp as I thought they would be on the opening day of the season. But credit has to be given to Bolton. They defended fantastically, putting bodies on the line and not letting West Brom have a lot of space in behind. And then in the 89th minute, it was Yannick Wildschut who managed to go ahead and pop up with the winner for Bolton after a corner coming in. And what a result this is for Bolton. I've got to give it to them, you know. Quite a lot of people at the start of the season, you know, were writing Bolton off. They were one of the favourites for relegation. And I know it's only the first day of the season, but picking up a 2-1 away victory at West Brom, fair play to them. This was a fantastic result. Let's get into it. Wigan go ahead and beat Sheffield Wednesday by 3-2, and Sheffield Wednesday's defence in this one was absolutely all over the place. But that shouldn't take the credit away from Wigan Athletic, who looked fantastic going forward. In my prediction video for the Championship this season, I did suggest that perhaps Wigan may struggle for goals this season, but that certainly didn't look the case in this one. Jacobs managed to go ahead and get 2 goals for them, and Nick Powell went ahead and got the third after Dawson had sort of saved the first shot, and then Powell managed to go ahead and follow up with a cheeky dink over to make it 3-4 Wigan. Sheffield Wednesday, they did carry an attacking threat going forward. I thought that Adam Reach put in some dangerous balls from the left-hand side. New Hugh obviously went ahead and got their first goal. Forestieri got their second, but for Sheffield Wednesday, something just seemed to be a little bit off with them for all this formula. Obviously, things went from bad to worse for Sheffield Wednesday when New Hugh went ahead and got sent off for a second yellow card late on. And Wednesday did have a chance late on. It was Stephen Fletcher, but it was a good save from Walton in the end to go ahead and restore all 3 points for Wigan Athletic. So a fantastic start for Wigan to this season, but Sheffield Wednesday, questions need to be asked, I think. And then we saw Swansea go ahead and claim a fantastic 2-1 away victory at Bramall Lane over Sheffield United. And the first half of this one, not a lot was happening. It was a bit of a bland game, actually, the first half. But then the second half really went ahead and kicked into life. It was Sheffield United who took the lead after a nice passing move. Baldock finished into the bottom corner very nicely. As soon as Sheffield United took the lead, that sort of woke up Swansea. And the catalyst for changing this game for Swansea was the introduction of Montero. He was absolutely unplayable for Swansea in this game. Tearing it up down that left wing for Swansea. He was unplayable in this game. Barry Mackay, I thought, had a terrific game as well. But the equaliser for Swansea was actually a very nicely worked goal. It was some nice build-up play inside the box, some flicks around the Sheffield United defence. Dean Henderson went ahead and made an original save, and then it was Ollie McBurney who followed up to make it 1-1. I did say that I fancied Ollie McBurney to have a big season for Swansea, and he showed there his poacher's ability to go ahead and follow up to make it 1-1. After that, McBurney then had a chance to go ahead and make it 2-1. Some fantastic work from Montero down that wing once again. He went ahead and completely sold Baldock. He had him in his back pocket, really. He got the ball into the box, and McBurney sort of diving back on himself managed to flick the header towards goal, and it just went wide. Unlucky Swansea didn't get a goal from that, really. Montero then went ahead and set up Barry Mackay, who went ahead and hit the crossbar for Swansea, and then Montero was the player who started the move, which saw Danda go ahead and win the game for Swansea City. So as soon as Montero was introduced, he just gave Swansea a new lease of life going forward, really, and if he manages to stay fit for an entire season, they've got a fantastic Championship player on their hands there. And then as for the Sunday game, we saw Leeds United go ahead and take down Stoke City by 3-1, and I've got to say, Leeds in that game were incredibly impressive. The pressing football from the front was fantastic to watch from Marcelo Bielsa's first game in charge, and Stoke they were really passive in this game. They just looked like they didn't know what hit them. Defensively, I thought that Stoke were all over the place. It only took Leeds 15 minutes to go ahead and break them down. A nice finish from Klitsch to go ahead and make it 1-0. Pablo Hernandez then doubled their lead just before half-time. A really poor mistake from Jack Butland, you know. You'd expect from, you know, an England international to be saving that. It wasn't really a very powerful shot, but he couldn't keep it out in the end, and then Leeds had their lead doubled. Stoke did get back into the game through a Benicophobe penalty at 2-1. You thought that maybe there'd be a bit of a resurgence in this second half, but Leeds managed to restore their 2-goal cushion from a fantastic set piece. A corner coming in from Barry Douglas, and then Cooper went ahead and got his header to it. It was some very nice movement from Leeds inside the box, and Stoke just couldn't deal with them in this one. And realistically, Leeds could have had more than the 3 goals they eventually went ahead and got. Of course, later on in the game, Stoke then went ahead and brought on Peter Crouch to try and give them a different dynamic in this game, but every player for Stoke City was incredibly average in this game. And looking at that Stoke team on paper, it is without doubt one of the most talented squads in the Championship in recent years, really. But if you've not got a game plan and a system to back up that talent, then you're going to get nowhere in the end. Leeds absolutely dominated this game, and they could have had more than the 3 goals they got in the end. The pressing football, I'd be very impressed if Leeds keep up that intensity over a full season. I'd be very surprised, because the players were looking shattered at full time, but it's a credit to Leeds. It was a fantastic first performance from them, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for them, because I think they could be a bit of a dark horse this year. In terms of Stoke City, the only real player who was creating anything was Tom Ince, really, and even he didn't have a brilliant game. He of course hit the crossbar in the first half, tried to link up the play with Benicophobe, who looked incredibly isolated for Stoke in this game, but apart from that, Stoke were very average. So guys, they were the games which took place this weekend in the Championship. Make sure to let me know down below what you made of all of this weekend's action. In terms of my goal of the weekend, I'm going to give it to Harvey Barnes for his fantastic hurling effort against Bolton Wanderers. And then in terms of my result of the weekend, there are a lot of contenders for this one. I'd be interested to see what you guys vote for. Brentford beating Rotherham 5-1's a contender. Bolton getting a 2-1 victory away at West Brom. But myself, I'm actually going to go ahead and give it to Leeds United for going ahead and beating Stoke by 3-1. In terms of the performance, the energy, and the opposition they were up against, they made Stoke look average in that game. So my result of the weekend is going to be Leeds United beating Stoke by 3-1. And before we go ahead and wrap up the video, we have a few matches to go ahead and talk about. Of course, tonight we've got Hull City going up against Aston Villa. For that game, I'm going to go ahead and predict Villa to go ahead and walk away with a 2-1 away victory. I'm intrigued to see how that match actually finishes. And then in terms of the Tuesday night games, we see Middlesbrough going up against Sheff United. Quite an interesting encounter, this one. Neither side were brilliant in their first game week. Of course, Middlesbrough got incredibly fortunate to go ahead and grab a late equaliser at Millwall. Going forward, they weren't looking brilliant at all. The creativity in that team just looks lacking without Adama Traore. Going up against Sheff United, they weren't the best against Swansea, but it wasn't an awful performance from them. For that game, I'm going to fancy it to finish as a 1-1 draw. And then we see Nottingham Forest going up against West Brom, of course. West Brom losing their first game back in the Championship to Bolton Wanderers. Forest going ahead and drawing with Bristol City. The second half of that Bristol City game, I thought I saw a lot more positives from Nottingham Forest than I saw in the first half. And for that game, I'm going to fancy Forest actually to walk away with a 2-1 home victory. That's what I'm fancying for the Tuesday games. But guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you did go in to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Let me know down below what you make of all this weekend's football. I'd be very interested to know. And make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.